This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Alright, morning. It's the morning of my birthday. Lenny made me this hoodie, so that's cool. Thanks Lenny. You don't watch my channel. That's my wife anyway. I wanted to do a video kind of talking about, I kind of looked at the calendar and realised that it's been nearly 4 months since I did a gig, and by the time I do my next gig it will have been over 4 months. So I thought that's quite a long time for me. Obviously, I guess most of us experienced during lockdown the feeling of not having a gig for a while. The reason for us that I've not had a gig is that, first of all, one of our dogs had the exploding disc, so it was pretty full on trying to look after her. And then midway through that, we found out one of our dogs was pregnant accidentally, and have had puppies kind of in the house since then, and they will be gone by then. 2 friends of ours, kind of handing them out to friends, have one of these, and yeah, then I can go back to doing gigs occasionally like I normally would have done. For me, I started doing gigs for money. So before this, I kind of did originals gigs, which actually don't really pay money, but in around sort of 2015 is when I started doing some kind of like function stuff. It started off doing Jesus Christ Superstar, and then the guy, Paddy, who plays bass for that pedal show band, basically got me my first gigs, essentially. And then he needed a guitarist for some stuff, and so he jumped onto bass in his band. I played some guitar. That's actually where I met Lenny. She was singing for that band. And things kind of went on from there. But the thing has been that most weekends I'd have a gig, and at my busiest, sort of in the summer a few years back, you know, sort of 3, 4, 5 gigs a week. I guess in terms of money for this sort of thing, I guess you might be interested in that. So this is going to vary for people around the UK, but for me, I'd done quite a lot of stuff for like agencies and stuff like that, and it seems that they like to sort of pay around £180-ish for a gig, which is not amazing. If you look at musicians' union rates and stuff like that, it's not going to be quite getting there. The band that I'm playing in now if you don't take a PA to the gig, it's like 200, and if you do take a PA, it's like 250. I think depending on, you know, how good the band, not good, you know, how established and how much they're charging, you can get maybe sort of double that, but that sort of seems to me to be around the sort of going rate in the Southwest at least. So some bands might pay you fuel as well, and some bands might pay you sort of like 350, 400. If I do an acoustic gig in the day as well, it's like 400 for the day, which, yeah, is actually a pretty decent chunk of change, right? So that's kind of like the financial side of the gigging stuff. I don't think there's too many ways where you could earn, you know, quite a decent chunk of change in a day for what is actually quite fun some of the time. Anyway, so I have an acoustic duo coming up towards the end of April, and so I wanted to talk in this video about what I would do to prepare for a gig, because I think that's, again, one of those things that, you know, maybe we don't talk about too much. And I've always wondered, like, how the pros prepare for a gig and that sort of stuff. So in lieu of actually having those kind of videos, I thought I'd make one, because at least someone else might have the idea that they could talk about this, because it's interesting to me about how many people are doing these gigs and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I've got my set list here, and what are we? We're about 2 weeks out from this gig, something like that. And I like to start to process this stuff with plenty of time. It's difficult when you're first starting out. You do lots of depth gigs. So a depth gig is like where you sit in on someone else's gig. So you might, you know, be playing with random people quite a lot of the time. These days it's a little bit more settled for me, but the process is basically the same. So you get your set list, and I'll put mine up on the screen here. So what I'm looking for is songs that I've never played before, or that I know that there's stuff that I need to prepare, essentially. So the first dance here, How Long Will I Love You by Ben Coleman, John Bowden and Sam Sweeney. So How Long Will I Love You, I basically could sing that in my head. Who was it? That Ellie Goulding did a cover of it, right? So I can hear that version in my head. For first dances, for weddings and stuff like that, there's often a specific version. So what I'll do is make sort of like, you take the list and make like a Spotify playlist of it, essentially. So that even if I'm not sitting down with a guitar specifically to learn it, I can be passively or even slightly actively listening in the car, so that when I do come to learn it, it's less tricky, there's less to learn. So I Predict a Riot, Kaiser Chiefs. Okay, we've got that, that's fine. Forget You, CeeLo Green. The only thing is here, we're playing this in a different key, so B flat or A. So I'll just give that like a once over. Can't Stop the Feeling in G. So that's quite a lot lower down than I would normally play it. That's fine. Valerie in E flat. Brown Eyed Girl in by Van Morrison in G. I've played this on bass a bunch of times, but not on guitar. And I know the guitar part is somewhat kind of tricky. So that one needs attention. Go Away Girl by Ed Sheeran. I know that song. I played it on bass, but I'll need to refresh it on guitar. Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles. Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, play it all the time. All Night Long, Lionel Richie, play it all the time. You Really Got Me by the Kinks. That one should be alright. Paradise by George Ezra. I played that one but a long time ago, so I might like sort of put a tick next to ones that I definitely need to listen to again and refresh. Then Get Lucky by Daft Punk. I played that every week for ages. Sugar by Maroon 5. Castle on the Hill by Ed Sheeran. Now that one I've not played a ton, but I really like the song, so I know how it goes. Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen. Now I know that's got a lead break that I'm going to need to pay attention to. So that one is, so on that first set list, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Paradise, Go Away Girl, Brown Eyed Girl. So I've given myself like 4 songs that I definitely need to pay quite a lot of attention to. And that's how I like to process it myself, because then it seems like the job is more doable. Like, rather than just going through the whole list, I'm sort of targeting things that definitely need more attention and doing them first. And I would also put them first on the Spotify list as well. So set 2, 17 Going Under by Sam Fender. I've never heard it, so I need to check that out. Somebody Told Me by The Killers. I've heard it, but I've never played it, so that needs to go on the list. Dakota by Stereophonics. Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Shut Up and Dance. A Little Respect. Sex on Fire. Teenage Dirtbag. So all of these I play all the time. I'm a Believer by the Monkees. Now I have played this on keyboard, on bass and guitar, but that one I probably just need to quickly refresh. I'd at least give it a go. Mamma Mia by ABBA in C. I normally play it in D, so that one needs a bit of attention. Mr. Brightside by The Killers in D. Excellent. Summer of '69. Excellent in D. Proud Mary, Tina Turner in D. Then Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars and Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis. So that's what there. So things I need to definitely look at. Somebody Told Me, 17 Going Under, Castle on a Hill, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Paradise, Watermelon Sugar, Go Away Girl, Brown Eyed Girl, I think, and also The First Dance. So probably, and this is probably relatively typical of most gigs, I might have like 8 tunes to actually properly work on. The rest of them will probably be songs that I already pretty much know. Another thing with most kind of wedding bandy things and function things, you don't ever get a rehearsal, which is a good thing. But it does mean you need to be like looking up, knowledgeable. I'd be looking out for what keys things are being played in as well. I've also got an acoustic set to do, so that's a bit of extra work. But that's kind of basically the process. So then I'd be listening as I'm driving around in my Honda Jazz. And then probably the next stage would be to take those 8 songs and start to try and play along with them and figure out what's happening. So first of all, that would be involving listening to the chords, listening out for specific parts that I definitely need to replicate. So like Crazy Little Thing Called Love, like there'd be the lead break, right? I'd be listening to that, figuring out how to play it, and then basically try and play it through a couple of times, see what happens, and I'd maybe put those 8 songs on like a repeating thing, and then sort of like come back to it the next day or something like that, so that over the 2-week period leading up to the gig, I'm not trying to cram at the end of the gig. I've had to do that sort of stuff, cram towards as close to the gig as you get is basically what I'm thinking. But I'm doing sort of steady work and revision, if you like, as I get towards the gig, so that it's not a panic and I don't have to worry about it. And I think that does definitely keep things way easier. I don't make notes anymore unless it's really last minute. I just have it in my head, sort of. So that's basically how I would do it. So what I would also do would be to print out the set list and make notes next to it if I need to, if there are little things that I need to pay attention to, and also then that can direct what it is that I feel like I need to work on most. So I'd probably like highlight the songs that I really need to work on, and I'd go through those first, and then sort of 3-4 days before the gig, I'd try going through the whole set list, or maybe like one set, then the next day, next set. That's basically how I prepare for a gig, as well as then checking that you've got all your gear and that it's working, and make sure that you've got things like power supplies in the car that you're going to need for your HX Stomp. Make sure you've got a spare pack of strings. Think about which guitars you're going to need, because sometimes, yeah, you might need a guitar that is in a different tuning, that sort of thing. Luckily, that's never happened to me, but I did need to take a Helix to a gig so that I could drop the pitch on something down. Yeah, so that's basically how I prepare for a gig, and I don't know, maybe that was slightly interesting, maybe it wasn't, but it is my birthday, so now I'm going to go and do something with the wife and kid. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks for continuing to check out what's going on the channel, and See you soon. If you want me to do like a really specific deep dive on how I might actually learn a song, do let me know. I'm looking for sort of videos that might help some of you guys. So if you've got ideas, email me, send me a message on Patreon. Cheers for stopping by.